Look, I think the core elements here is, for me, it's all about the team. If you have a great team, well then the road to success is, it's never going to be easy, but you've got some chance. So for me, really, the core element is the team. It's about basically treating everyone as an equal and having a role to play, being very transparent and having honest conversations with them. So for me, that's the core elements.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's more around, I've started off in a very different environment and often wondered whether it would be different going basically into commerce after 30 years of being in professional practice, and often wondered whether leadership would basically be the same. Interestingly enough, it is exactly the same. The skills that you have and the things that a leader is expected to do in a professional services firm really is no different in a commercial environment. I think that the most important thing is coming into something that's pretty new, to create a trusted environment where you're laying the groundwork, but you're really setting other people up for success, and you have to allow them to them to take the accolades, for them to shine. Because that to me is really important, because you're new in the role, and it's really easy to say, well, I did that, I achieved that, but the reality is you need to really step back. You also have to encourage. In our company, there is a lot of innovation that goes on all of the time. Basically, I know all of you probably think so far, but if I tell you some of the things we're working on, I didn't think they were possible, but it's always thinking about doing better. Now, in order to encourage people to have that innovation, reality is they won't always get it right. You have to give them a support network that when they don't, it's a bit like you take a bit more of the blame and give them. And when there's credit to gain, they get more of the credit. Because if you have that environment, everyone will be aiming for the same thing, and hopefully we will all head down the same path.
Great, thank you. And just touching on what Eddie talked about in terms of that imposter syndrome, do you remember that coming in at play for you as you started?
Look, there's no doubt when you first become a partner in place, you absolutely think, should I say that? But I think the role of a leader is to be, I think I heard it in the room, to be courageous. It's very, very hard. But even in my new role, far out, am I actually go, hey, successful company, it's been doing really well. Am I really going to say things aren't working? I think absolutely it's having the courage of your convictions and saying, well, I have value to add here, and being brave enough to actually do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Feedback is extremely important, but I agree with Lynn. It has to be constructive, because in the position I am now, there is always a rumour mill going on. There are people making comments everywhere, and you have to learn to shut out the noise. Because unfortunately you can go on a rampage about things that really aren't relevant. So you have to really focus on, here's the vision, this is what the plan is, and basically keep on that track. Of course I have heads of departments, and these are all very different people. So, when I was in a professional world, there were a lot of people who had similar backgrounds to myself. Now, some of you would have encountered that, but I have now the head of engineering reporting to me, our head designer, the head of marketing, customer service. These are very, very different people, and so you have to you have to learn to take their feedback in a different way. But it's equally as important. You have to also be willing that if you have your trusted team, your heads of department, that you need to work together, that you take it on board. Doesn't necessarily, you consider it, you work out whether it will make your plan better, and then once you've done that, you either make changes or you explain to them why you're not taking their feedback, because you don't want to encourage feedback but then ignore it. Okay, so many a time you give feedback but you never hear about it ever again, and I think that's, to me, very important. Even leading up to joining King Living, I would say that it's absolutely come from all quarters, and you're absolutely right. There have been graduates that have walked into, come to work for me, and, one of them I'm very notable that has a lot to do with the TIA, but he walked into my office. His father was actually a client, and the day he walked in, I knew that I could learn from him. So I think it's a two-way street. And I find that, even interestingly, even my daughter, my 20-year-old daughter, it's interesting what you can learn from them, because leadership style changes. It's different generations, and basically it's about mutual respect and listening. And I think that that doesn't just come from the people that are so-called leaders. I think it comes from everywhere. So I think it's really important to do that. There's no doubt that I've also experienced leaders who have the name of being a leader, but there's no doubt they've told me the things I don't want to do and the leader I don't want to be. So yes, absolutely the people that have inspired me, but there's been, unfortunately, I think we all experience others where you think, no, that's not where I want to be and not how I want to be perceived. And I suppose my gig now, which is David King, well, one of the reasons, and I think I noted to some of the panel members, that it basically took me 3 months to decide whether I wanted a career change, because I knew it was going to be a dramatic career change. The thing that actually encouraged me was that there was a leader here, a leader in the true sense of the word, not an easygoing guy, by the way, always wants better, pushes the envelope, that's not good enough, keep innovation, and all the rest of it. But for me, that was absolutely, I call him the Stephen Jobs of furniture. He doesn't really like to be known as that, but look, there's no doubt he's inspirational, and I've learned a lot from him. There's no doubt that mentors, not necessarily for me, because I've probably come from a different background, haven't had formal mentors, but the mentors have been people within the firms where they've basically been very encouraging and basically said, you can do it, encouraging, and basically allowed you to put your hand up and actually encourage you to an area where you think, really, can I do that? I think that's really important. But at the end of the day, I think mentors, formally informed advocacy is really important. And if I can talk about that in a moment, because I think in a lot of cases, in order for someone to advocate you, they have to perceive, I believe they have to perceive that you have got a skill set that no one else has, whatever that is. And it might not be a technical one, it might be the way that you can explain something really complicated, it might be the way that you can you've got connections. When I say connections, you know who the people are to get something solved, and that basically works within a practice. It definitely works within a commercial outlet that I am, and it definitely works, in actually getting those opportunities. Because if someone sees you in that light, they're going to say, well, how about Anna? You know what? Maybe she's the person. And I have no doubt that my role came about because the people around, the advisors around David King, whether they be his lawyers or his trusted people, basically said, what about? And I think, to me, that's the whole journey. Now, of course, I'd have to prove myself. It's not like you just get in there, but I think that that's extremely important. I think probably two things. The first thing is that it's very important to have a vision, but it's very important to communicate that vision and for your team to know what that vision is and to check in with them and them to be part of that. Because having a vision on your own isn't much fun, and also I can guarantee you the other people aren't going to follow you. So I think, it's great to have a title that says you're a leader, but really my role is basically to have an impact on people, to, hopefully you've actually, not about leaving a legacy, but to have an impact that you've made a difference. It's to influence them so they follow your journey, and it's to be inspirational, which is a pretty big ask and a big thing to be able to do. But I suppose, we're talking about women in tax. My second thing is, as a female who basically started off in tax and has always wanted a career, I think, and I do bring this into it, a lot of women say to me, but how have you done it? And by the way, I have 3 children and they're at different ages. And I always say to everyone, you actually, interestingly enough, you can't have it all without, and I always say the big without a huge support network. And the support network for me is, but it comes from all different places, to be really frank and honest. It is my EAs that I've had, my executive assistants, where my children, if they can't find me, they actually find them, which is really, really interesting. Sometimes they get away with things much more than they would with me. It's having trusted people around you in your team, and it's also admitting that you don't need to know it all. You actually, the fact is, it's good to have that admission, and you go and seek out the help or the answers you need. So that's probably the thing that I've most taken out of it.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I think that when, in this world where we receive email upon email and basically it's never ending, and my emails have not lessened, but I think the one thing that I have learned, the one mistake I've made is, and I've learned from it, when you get an email that is not that appealing to you, for goodness sake, do not hit reply, okay? Hang on to it and think about it overnight, because your view and how you're going to answer will probably change the next day. So that's probably one mistake. I have to say, and it's been nearly 2.5 years, but probably in the first 6 months, I really, really wanted to run that finance division. It was really hard not to get into the throes of it and say, hands off, you've got a lot of other things to do. Interestingly enough, it's the tax and superannuation background, my God, has it been helpful. In every single area, whatever we're doing, I mean, you know, our latest one is, we're an international company, where do we host a website? Well, that's an interesting question. So every single area, I can honestly say, it has made a huge difference having the background that I have. But I'm trying to keep away from that finance team, because I'll get into big trouble. Yeah. What does that actually mean? That's what I say, because the reality is that the role that I have allows me flexibility. I mean, I have ageing parents, not only have 3 kids, but I have ageing parents, and it allows me, you know, the reality is I can work from wherever, okay? So, look, it's all about how you sort of think about it. Does it mean that I work less hours? Well, probably not, but I have a lot more flexibility. Does that make for work-life balance for me personally? Yes, it does.